Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of All Queued Up, the review podcast tied to streaming services like Disney Plus, HBO Max, Netflix, you know the rest. I'm your host, Greg Dietz, and with me always is Maya Don Fisher. How are you doing this week?
Pretty good, I guess. I'm a little sad about the Raiders
Oh, yeah.
losing, but I didn't expect them to win that game. I really didn't.
They gave it their fucking best shot. I mean, well, that's arguable, but still. Because there was a lot of errors.
There were a lot of errors. Penalties were bad.
Well, I was talking to my brother about the penalties, and we were both agreeing that there's a big problem with the NFL and penalties right now. Like, across the fucking board. Every game. We were talking about the Niner game and how many bad calls there were there. Not the Dallas one that ended the game, because that was on Dallas for not handing the ball to the ref. But
well, that was on Dallas for giving up 170 yards rushing and
fair.
giving up, the penalties that they had, the unnecessary fucking false start penalties that, and that hurt the Raiders. They had a lot of false start penalties that put them back. They had a lot of holding calls that put them back. And, you got to be able to move the ball. I love Carr, don't get me wrong, but unless he's under a pressure situation, it's like if he's in a 2-minute drill, he can move the fuck out of that ball. But if it's just like, oh, there's 12 minutes to go in the quarter, let's just see what happens. It's like there's no focus. But, they need some better receivers. You only got 2 go-to targets.
Yeah.
Most teams have 3. And Renfro wouldn't be a starter on any other team in the league, I don't think. I really don't.
Yeah. It's, I mean, the concept that the Raiders even made it to the playoffs in the first place with the season that they were having
Is
with
incredible.
all of the shit going on is like fucking massive kudos.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect them to make the playoffs. I expected a sub 500 finish. But I'm glad they turned around and did as well as they did. I'm not angry. I'm sad about it, but I was under no delusions that they were going to still be in it and go all the way or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still watching playoff football and enjoying
we got the Niner Packer game this Saturday. What do you think the Niners' odds of winning that game are? And be honest. Well, you would be honest. You wouldn't fucking fabricate that for any reason.
I don't think they've got a good shot. Maybe a 25% chance of winning.
That's what I've been seeing a lot of. Like, this is where the Niners' run stops. I'm like, it's possible. I mean, when was the last time a wild card team made it to the Super Bowl and won?
That's a good question.
I think it's been a long time. It's not a commonality. But
only 7 wildcard teams have won the Super Bowl. The Raiders in '81. The last team to do it was last year. The Bucks with Brady.
Last year?
Yeah, last year.
Wow.
Before that, though, it was the Packers in 2011, the Steelers, the Giants in 2008, the Steelers in 06, the Ravens in 2001, the Broncos in 98, and the Raiders in 81. And that was the first team to ever do it.
So it happens every few years, it feels like.
Yeah.
That's not as uncommon as I thought. But
7 times out of 55.
And those 7 times are in the last 40 years.
Yes.
So there's that too. But yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see on Sunday. They do say any given Sunday there could be some variable that we're not seeing that, is going to tip the scales on that game, but we'll see.
If Rodgers is on his game and You know, if Rodgers is on his game, I don't think that 49ers have a chance in hell. I mean, the defense is good, but I don't think the offense under Garoppolo can compete with the offense that Green Bay has, especially with Green Bay's defense. So we'll see, though.
I know. Well, my week was plain Jane. Like, nothing really substantial happened.
I was just getting ready to ask, how was your week?
I'm getting back into a routine of healthier living. For quite a few, like about 2 months now, I've been constantly eating fast food. Not to mention, I haven't been exercising. I haven't been going to the gym for about 6 weeks.
So because your dad's not been door dashing with you, you've not had to watch what you eat with him as much.
I have to have a little bit more self-control. But, you know, one of the big things, this is going to sound really weird, but one of the big things that has always got me to be more mindful about what I'm eating is the fact that we are poor as fuck. So buying, you know, 4 chicken breasts and making it last 8 meals is now important.
Gotcha. And that's hard to do.
It is hard to do, but it's also something I need to do. And the way that I've been kind of forcing myself not to eat is not limiting myself entirely. So one of the biggest reasons that diets fail, and I've failed, is you go full bore into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, I'm just going to eat vegetable, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you can't do that. You can't do that to yourself, because the second that you start doing that to yourself, you get depressed, and then you fall into this hole of, like, I got to do this. So on occasion, like, every once in a while, I'm going to grab a chicken sandwich from fucking Popeyes or some shit. You know, like, that's how it's going to run. I'm not going to deprive myself of deliciousness. Like yesterday, I had a piece of cake. You know, it's going to happen.
I ate a piece of cake this week. Now, for those people that know me and are aware, I fucking hate cake. I do. I eat maybe 2 slices of cake a year, mainly because I have an egg allergy, and anything with high egg content makes me very nauseous and sick. But, you know, I will eat it. I love carrot cake with cream cheese frosting. I eat it once, maybe twice a year. And when the Raiders lost Saturday night, I looked at Misty. I was like, I'm sad. I want cake. And I said, go make a cake. And she's like, well, I don't have any to make. And I was like, yes, you do. And she's like, yeah, but you won't like those kinds. I was like, yeah, you're right. She's like, I'll get you a carrot cake tomorrow. So she went to the grocery store Sunday morning, and she got the stuff to make carrot cake. But she didn't make it until Tuesday night. So late Tuesday night, I did have a slice of cake.
It works.
Yeah.
I mean, and carrot cake is barely cake, if you ask me. So there's that. Yeah, I just, you know, I think the reason that I was off my diet for so long and was struggling so hard is because a lot has been around the house, not very, like, it's been kind of depressing. Like, shit just hasn't been great.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I just stopped caring, stopped giving a fuck. But what got me back into wanting to go to the gym and eating a little bit better is because I get winded stupid easily now. Like, I will go to someone's house, to someone's front door, get back to the car, and be winded. That's not good.
No, yeah, I understand completely.
So I'm like, better fix that immediately. So, but we're not, you know, we're not here to talk about my health. We're here to talk about shows, which we watched 3 this week. So last week, you'll remember, I said that we were watching Injustice on HBO Max, which is the animated version of what happened in the game, kind of. We'll get to that in a minute. Chapter 4 of the book of Boba Fett And we added, as Maya was watching it Monday night, I think it was.
I was watching it. I started watching it Monday afternoon, and mentioned that I was like 4 or 5 episodes in. I was like, yeah, so I'm watching Archive 81 on Netflix, and I'm like really getting into it.
I
And
looked up the synopsis and I was like, oh, I hella want to watch this. So we were like, fuck it, we're adding it to the goddamn syllabus.
and got so into it, totally forgot to even update social media.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
Yeah.
on me.
It's all right.
I'm bad for updating the social media.
We both are. We're both really bad about it. I had a thought while I was door dashing too. I was like, I should go update that when I get home, and I just never did. But since we're talking about it right now, we're gonna dive into that first. So I do you want to try to give a quick synopsis of the show, like without giving too much away?
Well, starts out, it focuses on a conservator. His name's Dan Turner. Um, he basically restores uh, physical media and converts it digitally, like old VHS cassettes, old cassette tapes. Um, Repairs them, restores them, transfers them to digital media, and saves them. He also does physical restorations, things like that, for a museum. He is hired by this guy whose company is just very mysterious. Can't find anything on the books about this company or what they do. He's like, look, I'll give you $100,000 if you restore these videotapes and upload all the files digitally, and you know that's all you need to do. He's like, you'll be staying at this compound. Uh, you don't have to worry about any cost of living. Everything will be provided. You just do the work. I'll pay you $100,000. And what he has to do is go in and watch these videotapes and restore them. And as he's watching them, he's trying to figure out what happened. The subject of the videotapes is a girl named Melody Pendris. She is a college student. She's working on a PhD. I think she was working on a PhD.
I think that's what she said. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically what she's doing, she is doing an oral history um, dissertation on an apartment building called the Visser. Uh, Early on, she says that the hotel or the apartment building was built on the remains of a mansion that burned down in the 20s. And her story is taking place in 1994. And she's basically everything that we see through her eyes is because she is always videotaping everything around her. So that's how we get so much of her story. And Dan is seeing it through a lens 25 plus years later.
Yeah, because it's presumed that his timeline is current, like it's
Yeah,
2021 or whatever.
yeah. I mean, they didn't specify exactly when it was. They just say present day. They never say, 2021 or 2022 at this
The
date.
only hints that I got that it was modern was like I saw the iPhone 11, or not 11, but the iPhone 11 and the AirPods in the movie
Yeah,
or the show. So that's the
yeah,
only inkling.
yeah. But it's clearly, the technology is present day technology and not. But yeah, that's what he's hired to do, and it's just basically he's stumbled onto a mystery that he becomes fascinated with and wants to solve as he is performing the task of restoring these videotapes and uploading them to a digital format.
Yeah. I mean, immediately the thing that, like, the first episode, I was interested. I was definitely compelled. I was like, oh, where's this going? Like, this is crazy. And the first episode felt like it could have been a movie by itself. Like, there was a lot that they dumped on you in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end of it, that reveal, that little reveal at the very end, I was like, oh, this is on Netflix, second episode, please, and thank you. And I think it was after I watched that episode that I messaged you, like, you want to add this? No problem. We can add this. Because I knew I was going to finish it. Like, it was definitely enthralling. However, there are little things, little elements throughout the show that kind of just didn't land for me. There was way too much, like, stereotypical Satan occultism. Way too much just, like, the fucking heavy breathing as they're, like, doing their prayer or whatever. I was like, okay.
Well,
it
was 1994, and to be fair, that was still a big issue then.
That's not the issue. The issue of it being a satanic cult wasn't my issue. My issue was how the satanic cult was handled in the storytelling of this show.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like the idol that they pray to, or the human sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. It was all too on the nose. Like, it was too, like, oh, we wrote this script in 1994 and just brought it to now. It's kind of how it felt. And I'm like, I've seen it. That's my only issue. Where I think the show shines is the mystery of what's happening.
Absolutely. Trying to figure out what happened. Because the videotapes, the reason why they need to be restored is because the Visser apartment building burned down in 1994, very shortly after Melody moves into the building and begins her video dissertation of it. These were items that were recovered from the fire. They were her videotapes, and the man, Virgil Davenport, is the name of the guy who has hired Dan to for this project. So, why is he so interested in this project? Why does he want to know what happened? The mystery that's presented is very interesting.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's I don't know if you know this, but it's based off of a fictional podcast, a podcast that does fictional stories. Sorry to clarify that, called Archive 81, where they would retell what was happening in these old VHS tapes that they were finding. And part of that story was Melanie. Like, part of what they did on that podcast was the Melody story. For the show, they added in Dan. And the ending. What happened in the end was totally not on the podcast, but
that's pretty wild.
One of the biggest complaints that I saw online that I think is kind of interesting is that one of the bigger components to Melody's character in the podcast is that she's gay. That was not a thing in the show at all. As a matter of fact, it's heavily insinuated that she's straight. Not even heavily. She sort of goes on a date with that one dude.
Well, I didn't consider that a date.
She seemed interested in the opposite gender than...
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, it is insinuated that her friend, the artist, that there was a relationship between those two in the past, Annabelle. Or they tried things. Annabelle.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what I saw online. If you know what the fuck we're talking about, let us know in any kind of place to contact us. But whatever. I thought that was an interesting tidbit, but I don't know. Like I said, there were one of my favorite elements about this, and I wish they kind of took it in a slightly different direction, but kept the theme. Is I loved the dual comment angle. that the quote unquote mold that they kept finding was actually part of that comet that hit the Earth. I was like, oh, that's really clever. I like that. That's actually a new angle that I don't think I've seen before. It felt like it was heavily inspired by the Halley's Comet shit too. So I don't know.
Well,
Which is fine.
Do you remember the whole Hale-Bopp comet back in '96?
Hale-Bopp. That's the one. Sorry, I was trying to remember the one where the Nike cult killed themselves. I thought that was Haley, but it was Hale-Bopp.
Yeah, it was Hale-Bopp. Because Halley's Comet came around about 85 or 86.
That's right, yeah.
I remember seeing it.
Well,
I remember seeing the Hale-Bopp comic too.
We recently had a comet pass by the Earth too. Couldn't see with the naked eye, but because it's too far away. But it came by and said hello. And every time I hear about a comet passing by the Earth, I immediately think of the movie, Don't Look Up. Yeah. Movie sticks with you, man.
Yeah, it does.
But the other thing about it was I felt like some of the acting was stiff. There's a few actors that I felt like didn't. Namely, Dan, the guy who played Dan. I felt like a lot of his moments in the show just didn't fit, and it was kind of like he was just saying words to say words. And wasn't
no, I get that. He was very emotionless in a lot of his delivery.
Yes.
And I just chalk that up to, this guy's personality. He's not a very outgoing kind of person, but,
I just felt like there was a lot of moments where he should have been more animated in the conversation, or like he was clearly pissed. He just saw his dad in one of the tapes, and he's just like, he seemed way the fuck too calm. And I'm like, why are you not emoting? Or there was the scene where he breaks into the fucking chapel underneath,
and
the owner of that company shows up unannounced, and he just stood there like a statue. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? It just seemed odd. It took me out of the show because it just seemed so out of place for what I think a character would do in that scene. So my brain immediately was just like, why are you standing there like you just like a kid who got caught? Like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you're an adult. You're not a kid who got caught. So why are you standing there like a kid who got caught?
He is an adult who got caught. But yeah, also he had $100,000 on the line. So maybe that was in the forefront of his mind, thinking, yeah, let's not do anything rash here because I don't want to lose out on that money.
My thought process is like, he is unraveling this mystery that involves his fucking dead family. You'd think that emotion would be, the forefront of a man's fucking reaction to that kind of thing.
He's also got an established history of mental illness and is on medication, which they show. And it could be a side effect of the medication. He's more leveled out and level-headed than he would be.
Here's my problem with that. We can't speculate that shit because it's never specified, and it's never even hinted at. Like, saying that right now is on par with trying to justify someone's actions when their actions were wrong. It's not no. Jesus, it's not that bad, but it's I don't know, man. Like, I think my issue is that even in that situation, regardless of the mental health, regardless of the $100,000, it doesn't make sense that a man would see his dead father in 1994 tapes and be like, now you tell me what's going on. You tell me now. He's not that bad. I'm exaggerating, but like, I don't know, man. He just stood there a lot, and I'm like, what are you doing?
No, I see what you're saying. And
It also didn't help that his friend Mark, I think his friend's name was,
Yeah, Mark.
overacted.
Oh yeah, that guy was. It's like what happens when you have an introvert and an extrovert best friend pair to the
And then
extremes on both sides.
yeah, like he was just like way more animated, and the dude would be a great voice actor. I don't know about screen actor though. Yeah, I was just like,
he was in Orange Is the New Black, actually.
oh yeah, he was. Yeah. I forgot about that.
He's gained a lot of weight since then.
Yeah, he has. I think that's the thing also that stood like these actors have been in things. They've won awards for their acting prowess. So why was it just kind of off this whole movie? But I think this goes back to my critique of like directors. A director will have a lot of fucking power in actor's performance. So, and it's not so bad that it completely detracts from the story overall. It was just something that like took me out.
No, I get you.
But yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I guess we can give final thoughts and a grade and move on.
Well, I'll let you go ahead and go first.
All right. I'm gonna give it a B plus. It's a really, really solid story. I think it maybe runs a little long in the tooth. It is telling two individual stories back to back. So there's that, but it feels like there's a lot that is happening that the audience doesn't need to know. And like, for example, whenever we're with Melody, it's usually in conjunction with footage that Dan can see. And yeah, we're seeing it from a different perspective because they don't want to have it just be through a camcorder the entire time.
Yeah,
that would be lame. But we're seeing a lot with Melody that Dan isn't seeing too, and that to me was an odd choice. Like I'm like,
yeah. I think there were some things, just to expound upon that could have been trimmed a little bit in that regard. Where
it felt like there was quite a few things that felt like they were it was added for padding because Netflix was like, we'll give you exactly 8 episodes, and they're like, fuck, we have 7. So that's what it felt like. But I don't know. It's a small critique. I think the show is absolutely worth watching, just for the sake of the mystery and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like I'm having my mom watch it right now. She just goes, "So I watched the first 3 episodes of the show, Greg, and what the fuck?" And I'm like, "Right, no, I get it." So it's definitely worth your time if you want to watch a good like horror mystery kind of thing. It's also not very scary, if I'm being honest. Like it is horror, but horror light.
I didn't think it was horror at all.
It's categorized as horror, and I get why, but it has imagery that you're like, that's uneasy. That makes me uncomfortable. So that goes into horror.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of the early episodes, when you're watching Melody's stuff, something's off, something's wrong, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah, you can't put your finger on it.
Which is, I love that. I just fucking love that. When I'm like, when it feels like you have eyeballs watching you from behind you and there's nobody there while you're watching a thing, well done. But yeah, so I'm gonna give it, like I said, B+, a solid watch. Don't pass up on it just because of my little dumb complaints. It's worth it. So Maya, what do you think?
I'm gonna give it an A. I really enjoyed it a whole lot. I love the mystery aspect, and we just gave you the basic setup and synopsis for this. We haven't really spoiled anything, which is rare for us.
Yeah, but the last episode at all.
The mystery that it presents is good enough to where I feel watch this and go on the ride for yourself, and come to your own conclusion. But I really enjoyed it. I do agree. Sometimes the acting felt a little wooden and uncharacteristic. of a typical person in that situation, but I'm willing to forgive that because the story is that good. The story is that good. It's a lot of fun. I started watching it on a whim Monday afternoon and did not stop. I was just like, you know what? I haven't really binged anything in a while. And I was like, I can stop and watch the Rams and the Cardinals, or I can keep watching this. And I just kept watching it. And I was like, damn, that was a trip. And I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit of a mind fuck. And there's some cool supernatural elements to it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. So an A from me.
I like how you mentioned the Monday night game, because that's also when they premiered the another show that we're going to review on this podcast, Moon Knight trailer.
Yeah.
Did you watch? Didn't you watch? You ended up watching that because we talked about it.
I watched it Tuesday morning. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I watched it. I watched it Monday night after I got off work because I literally walked in the front door after the trailer had popped up on TV and my folks were watching the game. And so my dad just rewound it like 10 minutes. I was like, wow, I really missed it by that much, huh? That's crazy. But very excited about that show. Like, it looks awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you and I talked about how we didn't know much about Moon Knight past, team-ups in the comics, but he's a cool character. I know that much. That I can tell you. But
and
yeah,
they got a great actor, for the role. So
yeah, Oscar. Hey, Oscar Isaac, are you just collecting fucking roles and franchises like Infinity Stones? What are you doing, bud? Whatever it is, just keep doing it. I'm enjoying it. You're great. Okay, so let's move on to Injustice. So what's funny about this movie, this animated movie, is it's a solo story. There will be no sequel. Doesn't have to be after the ending. But what makes it even weirder is it is a loose adaptation of the comic book, which was an adaptation of the video game. So years prior to the game coming out, Ed Boon, who was currently still working at Midway at the time, had gotten the ability to make a Mortal Kombat game with DC superheroes in it. It did not land well. People didn't like it. And the biggest reason was that the Mortal Kombat characters could do fatalities to other Mortal Kombat characters, but not to the DC heroes. And the DC heroes or DC characters had fatalities, but they weren't really fatalities. They were like, I don't remember what they called them. It didn't land because of a lot of that. So shortly after that game had come out, Ed Boon and a few other people had started up their own company called NetherRealm Studios. And they were working hard on Mortal Kombat 9. Well, they also wanted to do their own DC game. And that's when they came up with the idea for Injustice. And they had written the script. They had written what it was going to be about. But they thought maybe we should have something that kind of ties the game, or ties like let people know what happened before the game, because the game just picks up like well after the major event, which we'll get into in a second here. So the comic book was that. The comic book then had a life of its own after the game had come out, and kind of told a slightly different story about what was going on. More or less, it had to do with the fact that it was in universe versus what we see in the game is. So the major event, I'm just going to spoil the major event, which is in the first fucking 10 minutes of the movie, which is the game doesn't even show you, by the way. It just happens. But the idea is that Joker, being bored with playing with Batman, he knows about Lois being pregnant with Superman's baby. He kidnaps Lois, puts a bomb on her heart, or a trigger on her heart, I should say. There's a nuke in the middle of Metropolis, and he uses Scarecrow's fear toxin mixed with kryptonite to trick Superman into thinking that Lois is Doomsday. Superman kills Lois and his unborn child, and at that exact same moment, Metropolis gets nuked. More or less, Superman loses everything.
His ever-loving shit being the biggest.
Yes. So that's the major commonality that the game, the comic, and this movie have, right? But the movie tells a different story. The movie is let's say it's a different universe. And Superman is definitely taking the same steps that he would have taken to the game. Because again, the game is in the opening credits, you see the aftermath, just a little bit of the aftermath. And then it cuts to all the heroes fighting, like Superman's battling Ares and Shazam's fighting Black Adam. And on the Watchtower, you got Catwoman, Luthor, and Solomon Grundy fighting Nightwing. And it's a whole fucking huge number of characters. And then in the middle of Manhattan, you have Batman fighting Joker. And Joker has a trigger to a nuke that Lex Luthor had given him. As they're like slow motion coming to stop Joker, they all get teleported. They all just get teleported into the Injustice world, where Superman has already become the totalitarian dictator that the villain of the Injustice storyline. That's how the game starts, right? So you don't really get that big preamble. The comic starts off with year 0. It does like a whole preamble leading up to Joker's big attack, right? But then the game just like it tells that 5-year story before the fucking first game. Now that being said, this movie is an adaptation of that comic, not the game. Meaning that they kind of just had that opening bit and then went wherever the fuck they wanted. They really did. So the reason I'm telling anybody that is if you have played the game and you know the story of the game or you've read the first comic, know that that's not 100% what you're getting with this movie immediately. You're getting a little bit of a different story. So that being said, that now out of the way, what did you think of it, Maya? Didn't you say you played the game?
I've played both games.
Okay.
Never read any of the comics though, but I've played both games and enjoyed the games as a casual player more than I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't know. It felt too light. Like Superman to me went way off the deep end in the games versus this just kind of off the deep end. He's like testing the waters.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, give me total injustice Superman. Give me fucking off his rocker, not listening to any fucking reason Superman. Give me that. This didn't give me that.
Yeah, it felt like whoever wrote this definitely like had that mindset of who Superman is supposed to be. Where like that was the biggest complaint that Injustice got back in the day was Superman's character and characteristics wouldn't go off the deep end. If we're going hardcore comic, but one of the things that I love about superheroes and Marvel and all this kind of stuff is they don't exist so you can kind of do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
But traditional Superman character, like he wouldn't go off the deep end.
No.
You know, that's
that's why I like stories like Injustice that are just, you know, in their own pocket, so to speak, in their own universe.
Yeah.
It's just like, what if this happened? You know, I mean, It's essentially DC's version of What If. It's
It's called
just
Elseworlds, yeah.
Elseworlds. It's totally an Elseworlds thing. But
Absolutely.
I fucking it's very. Eh.
No, I feel you there because it's there's nothing substantial about it that like is going to be memorable. Like when we talk about Injustice 5 years from now, nobody's going to be like, "Oh, that animated thing that was on HBO Max." Not a fucking soul is going to do that. It's going to be about the game, especially if they come out with a third game by then, which there's rumors. But yeah, I don't like. It was very mid on quality, very mid on like I also did not like the weird animation with like the black lines that they had in it, like on
Yeah,
Knuckles and
like
shit.
especially on the knuckles and the hands. Yeah, I didn't like that either.
I was like, that's a weird choice. My dad was like, what the fuck is on their hands? I was like, it's just the animation, it's just the line, like the shadowing. And he was like, that's shadowing? I was like, apparently. So if my dad notices that shit, like you've done a wrong thing. Because my dad usually doesn't give a fuck. But
yeah, I didn't watch it until this morning. I got up about 6:30 and watched it this morning, and I was just like, ugh.
It's not boring. It's just like
No, it's not boring, and it's fast paced. It doesn't lull.
I'll just never watch it again.
Yeah, exactly. They throw a lot at you, and they do it in rapid succession. But nothing is memorable.
Yeah. And the ending is super fucking disappointing.
Oh, absolutely. That ending, I was just like, that's it? What?
I'm gonna fucking spoil it. I don't care. But like having a Lois Lane come through and at
from
this
another
point
world.
from another world and she's the magical one to convince him. I was like, that's a weird fucking choice.
And then he just stands down and willingly goes into custody, and Catwoman kisses Batman, and that's it. Close. Everybody walk off in the sunset. Happy ending, kind of. What?
Yeah.
No.
It was very weird. I was like, no, not like this. This is not fun.
Nope.
But I will give it this credit. It is brutal. It's as brutal as the games. Like
I thought it was less brutal than the games. I felt it could be more brutal, really.
It could have, but it like because yeah, in the games we have that wonderful shot of Superman just fucking blasting, or lasering Billy Batson's fucking head off, or at least it was in Shazam form. So Superman's not just killing a kid. So there is stuff like that in the game, whereas this movie, it's like there's some brutal shit.
He kills Green Arrow. He does that same thing. He heat visions a fucking hole in his head. Doesn't show the hole in his head, just shows his prone body.
Well, it's a little different because the one in this show is you don't see the hole. You just see his head get hit and then him fall over with steam coming out. In the game, the Shazam one is he holds him by the throat and melts his fucking head off, and you see it.
Yeah,
because it's the guys who made Mortal Kombat. So that's the difference in the brutality is what I'm getting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It felt very light in comparison.
Yeah, like HBO Max was like, well, you can get away with quite a bit because it is, the game is brutal, but not that much. And it's like, okay. Again, it felt like it was written by somebody who was a fucking Superman hardcore fan and was like, I'm not going to allow Superman to be that brutal. It's like, okay. Well.
Yeah. And as a result, the product suffers.
A bit, yeah. Again, it's not worth your time, I guess. Like, if you didn't play the games and you kind of want to see the story, it's fine. I don't know. It's kind of hard to recommend it because it's so forgettable.
Yeah, unless you're a hardcore animated DC fan, skip it. But if you really are into DC properties and love their animated movies, which is usually where they shine, check it out. But it's it's ho hum.
Yeah. Well, why don't we go ahead and give a grade? And
I'd give it a C minus.
Wow, it's a little lower than I gave it, but
Yeah, I'd give it a C minus. It's below average, but it's not dismal. Um, they tried, but they didn't succeed
but
in
in
that.
the end, they didn't get so far.
Yeah,
It didn't
and
even
nothing
matter.
really matters, or it doesn't even matter. However that lyric goes. But yeah, I mean, you can get more enjoyment out of googling and searching the Injustice cinematic storyline and watching the cutscenes from the video game 1 and 2 and be more entertained than this.
I watched the opening, at least the first 15 minutes of the game without the fight scenes. Like they just cut the fight scenes out.
Mm-hmm.
And I should say fight scenes, the fight moments, the gameplay moments.
Yeah.
And it's a 2013 game. It looks like a 2013 game. So there's that. Which it came out in 2013.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize it was that old.
Still has a better story though.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Not even arguing that, but yeah, it was just like I was like 2013. It feels like it was much closer than that, but maybe that's because I played the sequel, and the sequel it just looks better. It's got a great story, but it's the same game essentially.
Yeah,
gameplay wise, but it's fucking NetherRealm Studios. Like, are they have a fucking engine for the fighting game? They're not going to change it. Anyway, I give this Injustice animated movie a C plus. I liked it a bit more than you did, but I also thought it was kind of cool that DC, that Warner Brothers even allowed for that fucking animated movie to had to happen. I was like, really? Okay, I'm fucking in. Let's see this. So I think that might be why I'm a little bit more lenient. Plus, we did see Jimmy take a bullet to the eye, and that's nice.
We saw his camera take the bullet.
Well, we saw the camera move. and the bullet hole be there, so there's that. But yeah, it was yeah. I mean, I agree. It's fine if you're looking for something to watch and you're a big superhero fan. Definitely check it out. Like, I think that's the thing for me. I fucking love superheroes. Absolutely adore superheroes. So if there's a new superhero thing, I'm probably gonna watch it. So I was gonna watch this regardless. And if you're like me in that regard, I think that you'll like it as much as we did, give or take. I don't know. That's about it. That's all I can say. All right. Well, let's go to the last thing. The chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. Arguably the best episode so far. I don't know where to begin on this one. It's mostly in the past.
At the beginning. I mean, it starts off with a scene of him and his back to Tank, and that's when we get the flashback scenes, and it shows. At first, he's outside Jabba's palace, or Bib Fortuna's palace at this point in time. He's obviously scouting. And he's like, not this time. And he and his bantha leave. This is the period after the Tusken tribe that he had been living with, as one of them had been wiped out. And then he's at a campfire, he and his bantha, and he sees some explosions, and it turns out it's the incident that happens between the Mandalorian and the bounty hunter that he teams up with to find Fennec Shand on Tatooine. That's happening at the same time. And he finds Fennec Shand near death and takes her to a mod parlor on the outskirts of Mos Eisley. He's like, this woman is dying. She needs to be modified. So she gets droid guts put in her so she can live.
in arguably the most cyberpunk fucking sequence we've ever had in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, and I'm like, yeah, give me more of this. This is cool.
It was dope.
But basically, he's like, I've saved your life, and she's like, okay, I'll help you until my debt's paid. He's like, help me get my Firespray starship or gunship. She's like, okay, where's it at? He's like, Jabba's palace. She's like, just walk in there and ask. He's like, I'm afraid I won't like the answer. It's like, we just need to take it. So, it shows them meeting up and partnering up and planning and getting the ship formerly known as Slave One. It's not called the Slave One anymore. It's the Firespray gunship. That's what type of class of ship it is, and that's people are just going to have to get over that hang up they have about the name not being used. I mean,
what's really funny is that in the original trilogy, and in the prequels, the ship is never named. The only reason we know it as the Slave One is because of toys.
Yeah, exactly. It's never called that by name. And the thing is, and the character they're setting, and they're giving Boba Fett, he's definitely got a code about him.
Yeah.
And maybe he just didn't like the name and decided not to keep the name of the ship. Who cares? It's something dumb that people are getting hung up about.
That's Star Wars fans in a nutshell. I mean, if we're being honest here, it's a constant problem with Star Wars fans.
We say this as Star Wars fans, so
yeah. Well, last week I posted a thing on Twitter that was like, Star Wars fans are fucking weird because they had a hang up about the goddamn the scooter speeder things or whatever the fuck you want to call them. Like, Star Wars fans are fucking weird. There's no other way to put it. They just are.
They don't like it when colorful people come to steal their sunshine.
Leave them out of this. They did nothing wrong. No, but yeah, I was a little confused why Jabba's palace still had all the guards it did. Like, it had been a couple years since Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc pit. He had been with he even says it to Fennec Shand, like, so why were they still guarding the, like,
it's not that they were just guarding his ship. They were guarding the entire compound. They had routine patrols.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is, why were they still there? Like, did the Hutts tell them to keep it, or?
We don't know the story of why, but we just know that Bib Fortuna at the time was in control, and I guess he needed to have a strong presence visibly. Who knows? We've not really.
No, it's just a dumb question I have. I mean, I was just kind of like, I was watching it going like, why are those guards still there? They're like still full on patrol. The droids are still making food as if it's for Jabba. So there was a lot. I was like, feels a little off.
Bib Fortuna definitely ate. The fucker got fat. You remember seeing that scene at the end of The Mandalorian.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, there's some subtext there that we don't know, that we don't need either. There's whatever. The entire point was Boba and Fennec getting the Firespray back, so who cares? That's the ultimate way. Though I will say, I'll say this much. I don't understand why we needed that comedic scene in the kitchen.
With the droid?
But I fucking love it.
Same. I was like, oh, why is this little a rat catcher droid of all things? And then it's just running around like Looney Tunesing it up.
So funny. And then he turns himself off. God, I was cracking up at that. I also want to point out one of my favorite things about this show, and again, I know CGI is up to the point where they can make it look like it's practical and um animatronic, like,
Mm-hmm.
but everything looks like it's fucking like
Stop
everything
motion.
looks real, like it's on set or stop motion. Like that little robot was running around and I'm like, he's real, right? Like he's actually there being puppeted, right? I couldn't tell the difference. If it's not, well fucking done. If it is, well fucking done. Like there's no way I'm not gonna love that. So much about it is super rad. Like I felt like everything inside Jabba's palace was built on set. Like
Yeah.
The hangar had to have been partially CGI, but it looked good. It looked really good.
Yeah, it did.
So,
And there's they get stumbled upon and they have to make an escape, but they escape in the ship, and then you see Boba Fett track down the swoop gang that killed the Tuscans, and he just made very short work of them. Then you see them go to the Sarlacc, and they're trying to find any traces of his armor, end up dropping a depth charge on it and killing the Sarlacc.
that was wild because like I've played a lot of the games, and a lot of the games you get to play as the Firespray, and I've used the depth charge. I thought it was a seismic charge, but
Seismic charge, yes, but in this instance, it's a depth charge because it's underground. Depth charge underwater. That's my mind went there.
that's fair. I didn't want to say it wrong in case I got it wrong. That's why I was
no,
like,
they are totally called it. They are called a seismic charge, but in this instance, my mind immediately thought depth charge because water, sand,
right.
under,
It works. It makes sense. But yeah, I never thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see that specific bomb on land.
And it was cool. Ass, blood, and guts just went raining everywhere.
Oh, it actually gave me a jump scare, by the way. Like, I saw the mouth of Sarlacc coming out of its hole, but the second I went, wow, like that at the camera, I literally went like that. I was like, God damn it.
That's awesome.
So they got me on that one. I was like, I saw it coming too. I was like, it's gonna jump out, and it still got me. I was like, oh fuck. No, it was dope. And then but I want to say that the towards the end of the episode, he gets out of the bacta tank, and he is told, "You are completely
Your healing
healed."
is complete. Yeah.
So are we done with flashbacks?
I think so, because they pretty much got up to the point where she agreed to stay on as a working partner with him.
Yeah. Because we know the rest of the story from here on out with him.
For the rest of the story with them, it picks up in The Mandalorian. We know that.
Yeah.
So we see him meeting with local heads of families. He's like, there's a war coming. We need to ally against the Pikes. And a lot of them are like, no, we're not doing that. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to war with them. I just ask that you don't betray me when I do it. And they're like, that's fair.
Yeah.
We can agree to that. And it closes with they're on the balcony overlooking, watching everybody leave. And she's like, do you trust them? And he's like, no, but I trust them to, act in their own self-interest. He says, what I need is muscle. She's like, you got coin? He's like, yeah, I have plenty. Or she said, how much do we have in your reserve treasury? He's like, I have plenty of coin. She's like, coin will buy muscle if you know where to look. And all of a sudden, the fucking music from The Mandalorian plays. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, if Mando is full on brought in, that would be amazing. I don't know if he will, though. Like, knowing the character, I don't know. This next 2 episodes could go fucking anywhere, by the way. Like, it was kind of easy to see a little bit where the next episodes were going to go. Like, oh, he's just going to be the dynamo now for that region of Tatooine and yada, yada, yada. And then the flashbacks are just going to pick up, like, and it was like, we didn't see everything, obviously. Like, there were a lot of flashback stuff that I didn't see coming, but we knew what it was going to be about in a sense.
Yeah, but it also gives us the feeling that he spent a lot more time than we initially thought with the Tuscans. He essentially spent probably the better part of 4 years with them,
Yeah, yeah, like
at least,
at least.
because this is spanning the 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
I'd say he's probably spent 4 years with the Tuscans and then a year on his own living, nomadically and trying to get his shit back.
yeah,
Up to the points where, he meets Fennec Shand. And yeah, so that's very cool.
yeah. I'm loving this show a lot. It's. I wasn't sure where it was going to go because, as we've stated on this podcast, I was never really the biggest Boba Fett fan, as I never understood why the fandom the way that it was. Like I was like, his armor looks cool, and that's roughly it. But this has given him some actual character development and some actual like stakes, and I'm just like, oh, finally,
Yeah.
finally, I can like Boba Fett.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than just, oh, he looks badass. Well, yeah, he did, but he didn't do shit.
Yeah. I always thought it was weird when people were like, Boba Fett's my favorite character, and I'm like, that's a weird choice. So, yeah, very happy with how the show's going, and I can't wait to. Next 2 episodes are going to be. It's only 6, right? If I'm not mistaken.
6 or 7.
6 or
7.
okay.
7. It's 7.
Okay, so we have 3 more. Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fuck. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. I think Star Wars is always an interesting franchise to me because it can be very hit or miss, and I'm always a defender of it because I like Star Wars a lot. I have a fucking Star Wars tattoo. But I'm not above critiquing. You all couldn't see that, but I gave him a look. Give her a look. Sorry.
I knew that look was coming, and I had to do it anyway.
I have to mention it once every few months, okay?
Okay.
It costs a lot of money. I only mention it because, like,
see, if you were a real Star Wars fan, you said this cost me a lot of Imperial credits.
Well, that's exactly the joke I was going for. There was like the reason I mention it is like when I defend something in Star Wars, I'm like, there are people that'll be like, "Oh, you're not a true fan." The fuck does that even mean?
I just saw a question, a statement and a question posed by one of our friends, Sam, who's been on the show with us before. He was talking about, because he's been very critical of this show in his comments that I've seen online. And people are saying, well, you're not a true fan. You're not a true fan. He's like, well, what the fuck's a true fan anyway?
Yeah, it's a dumb fucking phrase. Like,
it is.
I'd love to pick his brain on why he doesn't like the show, but that doesn't make him any less of a fan than me. So
I'll have to hit him up. Maybe he'll want to come on with us one day.
Yeah, 100%.
Of course, he is a school teacher and we do record in the morning, so that's going to be hard to pull off.
Well, it depends if like we want to record like Thursday afternoon when he gets off work or
yeah, I'll hit him up. I'll hit him up and see what he
I was like, or even a moment on like a Sunday. Like if he has a weekend spot and we can just kind of record a spot with him that we can edit in or some shit.
Yeah.
I'd be down with that. But
yeah, because I value Sam's insights and his opinions. He's a great dude.
One of the things about like, I think our better conversations are when we don't agree on things. So having somebody on here that wouldn't agree with us on Boba Fett would be a very cool conversation.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think let's go ahead and give it a final grade and then wrap this bad boy up.
Well, go ahead.
This episode gets an A+. It is flawless in my mind. Enjoyed every second of it. I laughed and I felt like real stakes were being had. Specifically towards the end, because I knew he wasn't gonna, like, him and Shennick were not gonna die saving the Firespray.
Fennec.
What'd I say?
You said Shennick.
Oh, sorry, Finnick Shand. Yeah. I thought I said Finnick. My brain said Finnick. I can tell you that. My mouth didn't. Yeah, I knew they weren't going to die because this is a flashback. We know that they exist in the future. So those stakes were low. But meeting up with all the families of Tatooine, didn't know where the fuck that was going to go. And now these 3 episodes, if we're not doing flashbacks, the sky is the fucking limit. I have no clue. Mm-hmm. They could full on kill off Boba Fett at the end of the show, for all we know. I don't think
at this point, I think there'd be people that would be fine with that because they have such a distaste for what they're seeing. But I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm also going to give it an A+. I think it was well told, well shot. There were a couple of lighter-hearted moments, but you're starting to see more humanity from Boba Fett. Letting the bantha go. He's like, "You're free. Go find other banthas. Make bantha babies."
Yeah.
That was his mount. It was his mount for a very long time. He wants nothing but peaceful, tranquil life for his mount, which was his friend. What's wrong with that? I've seen people complain about that, and I'm like, why does that bother you so much? Because a former bounty hunter has empathy towards a creature, you're upset? No, we're getting great character development. Leave that shit alone.
Well, that's the thing. I think to further my complaint is that, and we've talked about it before too, is people have this strong mindset of what these characters are and what they do because of the old books that are no longer canon.
Yep.
I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of these characters because of those books. I've been very public and very outspoken about I hate the fucking legacy books. Most of them. Well, the ones I've read anyway. I hate them because it doesn't, that none of the characters are characters. They're all superheroes. They're all, and I'm talking about like Golden Age comic book superheroes. They're all mega powerful, do-goody, and I hated it. I always like characters that are flawed, and this show is making Boba Fett a flawed human character, and I fucking love it. Now I can sit there and be like, yeah, I like Boba Fett, where I couldn't before. Sorry.
Hell yeah. No, you're not wrong. There were a lot of those legacy books were bad. But there were some really good ones though.
I'm sure there are, man. Like I know that there are. Like there's some legacy books that don't have to do with Luke, don't have to do with any of the characters from the original trilogy.
Oh, one of the best fucking legacy books out there, I, Jedi, had hardly anything to do with Luke. He's just an aforementioned character in it a couple of times, but it focuses on, Karan Horn, I think it was. Was he the main character of I, Jedi?
I was like, I hope you're not asking me, because I've never heard of it. I was gonna say, I think that's
Karan
what people.
Horn. It was set 11 years after Battle of Yavin. Follows Karan Horn in his quest to become a Jedi in order to save his wife Mirax. And yeah, it was a really good book.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard it, but yeah, I don't know. I read a few of the legacy books back in the day, and I remember my brother and I reading them like kind of back to back, and I was always like, these suck. And he's just like, really? You don't like them? I'm like, yeah, it sucks. Like I remember.
Do you remember which ones you read?
No. They all had to do with like, it was after Jedi and had to do with some of those characters and stuff. And I read one Boba Fett book, and I really hated that one. But yeah, I think a lot of people, something that I've noticed, I'll put it this way, before we end the podcast, I want to bring this up. Something I've noticed about being 38, almost 39 in April. And for the past few years, this has been the way. If you hit a certain age, you have this nostalgia for your youth that overshadows everything else. So I'll give an example. I'm starting to see memes of kids that grew up in the 2010s, right? They were born in the late 90s, they grew up in the 2010s, and now they're adults. And they think back to the cartoons of 2010 and say that that the new cartoons suck. They have this idolized vision of what the 2000s cartoons look like. And there's a lot of good 2000s cartoons. Not even going to deny that. But a lot of them also sucked, much like every other fucking generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of people my age, people older than me, they do this shit too. Just because you saw Star Wars at a young age doesn't necessarily mean that those characters are the way that you saw them as a kid. Do you remember growing up? And I don't know about you, Maya, but I know a lot of people have this experience. You grew up and your parents are fucking superheroes to you, right? You're a kid. They're taller than you. They're stronger than you. I know that some people don't have this experience, so that's why I'm saying it the way I did.
You mean super villains, right?
No, I mean, like, a lot of people have this experience where, like, I had this experience. I looked at my dad as a fucking superhero. He could do no wrong. He was the smartest person in the room. He was the best person in the room. And then I hit like 12 or 13 and I went, my dad's a fucking idiot. And I started to realize that, like, there was an age where I hit where I was like, my dad is just like me. He just has hopes and desires and dreams that were never accomplished. And I like the person that my dad is in my mind now because I had those thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Not the person that I saw my dad as when I was a kid. And you have to do the same thing with your favorite characters from your favorite franchises. You just do. You have to look at these characters as flawed humans or they're fucking boring. I used to really, really dislike Superman because I just saw him as this Boy Scout who would just punch his way out of anything. And then people were like, read All-Star Superman, read this comic. And I'm like, okay, now watch this show. And I'm like, Superman is a more in-depth character than I was giving him credit for because I had this vision in my mind of what kind of character he was, and he was boring. Yeah. Now, there are stories that make Superman boring. I'm not saying that there aren't, but that furthers my point. When Last Jedi came out, people hated the characterization of Luke in that movie because in their mind, he was a superhero. He was top of the line. He was the biggest of the badasses. Nobody wanted to put to context that he's going to have PTSD from what he experienced. He's going to have trauma. He is a flawed human. And we see him be a flawed human in the original trilogy quite frequently. Did you think that was somehow going to change because he wore a black suit and defeated his dad? Which he didn't even defeat the fucking Emperor. That was Vader. Like, the list goes on and on and on. And people have this concept. And it drives me fucking up a wall. Like, one of the things that's really fucking getting to me right now is that if you sit there and say to me that Tobey Maguire is your favorite Spider-Man, great. I don't care. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But if somebody like me, who read the comics long before the first fucking movie had come out, had watched the animated series, says Tobey Maguire is the least comic book accurate Spider-Man, and you tell me I'm wrong, what the fuck are we doing? That shit's ridiculous. It drives me absolutely bonkers. You don't have to like Book of Boba Fett. In no way, shape, or form are either Maya or I telling you that you have to like the Book of Boba Fett. But what we are telling you is that if there is somebody out there who says Book of Boba Fett is it's a great show, or says I don't like it, you don't get to tell that person that they're not a true fan. You don't get to sit there and I don't know. I'm fucking rambling now because I'm now irritated by the thought of just talking to somebody that is a fucking gatekeeper. So I'm done. I'm done with my rant. I've done this before on the podcast and now I'm doing it again. So anyway, Maya's just now ignoring me.
No, not at all. I was just making sure you were done.
No, I'm done. I realized that if I kept going, I wasn't going to stop. So I was like, I should end it here.
Yeah.
I think that the generational thing is funny. Like you have this kind of preconceived notion of characters, and you have to let that go. You just do. And I don't think enough people do. So that's that. That's all I was getting at. Well, why don't we go ahead and wrap this puppy up? We both gave it an A+, so we're going to be done. I have to go to work soon, so that's a thing. So next week, everybody, we're just going to, as of right now, all we have on the docket is Chapter 5 of the Book of Boba Fett. Much like Archive 801, we'll add something. We're going to try to be a little bit more mindful about putting it on social media when we add something. I feel like something's coming out this next week, but I can't find it that I know that we'd both enjoy. So I just don't know where it is. I looked, but I'm sure that, if we know something, we'll really, really try to tell you on the social medias, which you can follow by following the links down below, like that segue. Also check out the YouTube channel. That's where you'll find the video live to the podcast. Check out the Teespring store. We have a bunch of merch there that you can buy, and it goes to supporting the podcast directly. Because not everything we do on the podcast is free. Got to pay those licensing fees.
Hosting fees.
Hosting fees, thank you. Not licensing. Also, when you go to the YouTube channel, like subscribe and whatnot, because it helps algorithm, gets ads and revenue, all that shit. So that's a plus. Other than that, Maya, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Maya Dawn Fisher. That's a public profile, so if you wish to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, those are linked to my Facebook profile, and it's easy to do so from there without having to try to remember what those screen names are. If you want to catch me on other shows, appear on the Realm of Collectors podcast Figure Bangin', which airs every other Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. It's an action figure review show, interactive live chat, where we go over a figure and all of its accessories and the pros and the cons, etc. It's a lot of fun. Every other Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And then sometimes I appear on Shelf Gravy at 9 p.m. Eastern on the alternating Wednesdays. Same channel, Realm of Collectors on YouTube. That's everywhere you can find me. What about you, Greg?
You can find me on here on this podcast primarily. You can find me under all socials under Chub Rock Geek. Wow, my brain just stopped. Oh, Mission Start Podcast. That's another place you can find me. Anthony and I did an episode a few weeks ago on the Game Awards, and we talk about like the games that we think deserved it and all this kind of stuff. It's if you like video games, you like discussions, it's a good one. But that's Mission Start Podcast or Mission Start Tubes on YouTube. But that's it for me. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Remember, next week, Boba Fett, follow the socials when we add something, because I know we're going to. We always do. And thanks for listening.
Take care, everybody.